Hi everyone, hope you guys are all having a great day. Today I would like to begin a short discussion on character agency in literature. I was inspired to begin thinking about this after reading The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker and Circe by Madeline Miller and watching a couple of the BookTube Prize reviews of these books. Several of the YouTubers that I watched had very insightful thoughts on these books, but one in particular felt that she didn't like Circe as much because she felt that the character didn't have any agency. And I thought that was interesting, especially when you compare it to Briseis in The Silence of the Girls. And it got my wheels turning a little bit, trying to figure out what exactly character agency is in a novel, and the different ways that it can be played out. So I've done a tiny bit of research to sort of get myself a firmer footing on the topic, and I want to sort of share that with you today. And then in another video, I'm going to take a closer look at The Silence of the Girls, which is a retelling of Troy, and then compare that to Circe, which is a retelling of the Circe myths. So, I will go ahead and officially get started. Okay, so what is character agency in a story? Agency in a story is when we talk about that, we're talking about a character's ability to make a choice. Whether they have the ability to choose or act freely and control their sort of destiny within the novel. It's, do they have the ability to take action? How much control do they have over their own lives? And another definition I saw was a character's ability to make a purposeful choice, which I thought was interesting. The use of the word purposeful is a bit more than just making any old choice. It's a purposeful choice that is going to impact the story. So as we're reading a story, we're thinking to ourselves, does the character have the ability to make the choice? And then do they actually make the choice? Which as I continue to think about The Silence of the Girls and Circe, I think both of those questions are something that I'm going to have to think about and address. Also, when we're thinking about character agency, we have to consider the fact that not making a choice is in fact a choice, and it's one that readers typically don't like. Also, we have to consider, has the character actually gotten to the end of his rope? When we're seeing a character who's not taking any action, is it because he has exhausted all other possibilities, or is it because he has just sunk into the pits of despair and feels like there are no other options? Which I think would give an interesting sense of irony to a story when the character can't see any options, but we, the reader, can see clearly what they should do. Another interesting thing that happens sometimes as literature is whether or not sometimes a story will begin with a character completely paralyzed by fear and in the pits of despair right at the beginning, and the whole point of the story is to see how they got that way and how they're going to get themselves out of it. So when you read a story where the author opens it up when in that almost climactic moment, you're expecting some sort of choice to be made. They're not going to stay in that pit forever, right? I mean, hopefully not anyway. Okay, so sort of an overarching theme that I saw as I was doing a little bit of research here is that fiction is all about characters making choices and then seeing how those choices affect the plot line, either positively or negatively. If our characters don't have any choices to make, or if our characters don't make any choices, then we find it boring and irritating as readers. Now, sometimes a story is all about the fact that either a character has no choices, or it's all about stripping those choices away from the characters. One article I read looked at 1984 and Brave New World as that kind of a story where you are introduced to a character and the whole point of the story is to slowly and painfully strip away their agency and almost their humanity at that point. And the author of the article really examined how the authors of 1984 and A Brave New World sort of achieved that goal. And the point that she makes is, say 1984 for instance, Orwell takes an entire novel to get his character to the point where he does not have any more choices to make. And after getting to the end of the story, we're in agreement with Orwell on this. We see that the character has no other choice to make. He is completely boxed in, completely constrained, completely overtaken by his society and government and the people who are trying to oppress him. And we have to accept that. We don't see any other options for that character. I think that's a difficult job for an author, a difficult thing for an author to achieve. Very rarely do I look at the character's options and think, they have nothing else to do. They just have to submit. This is the end. I felt that way in 1984, and I can't really think of other options right now. I think most of the time my gut instinct as a reader is to think, well, the character definitely should have done this, or the character had these other options and didn't take them. I'm typically okay with a character making a bad choice, but I am never okay with a character making no choice at all. And that is really where my frustration with The Silence of the Girls comes in, and how I see it as different than Circe, even though both of them are relatively feminist novels trying to promote the views of women in ancient culture. And they're both retellings of ancient myth. The stories are so similar, but they are handled in such a different way that I found it very interesting to hear someone say that they didn't think Circe had any agency. So this is my intro video to sort of begin a discussion about character agency. I would love to hear, maybe in the comments below, is what do you think character agency is? Have you read stories where you felt that the character didn't have any agency? How did you feel about that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great day. Bye.